Let's start here. My name is Zopa. I've been on the program since January 2024. And in progressing through the program to recovery, and in being involved in facilitating peer groups, doing webinars, answering emails, I have noticed that there is an issue around commitment, i.e. committing to either this program, the one you're registered to, or committing to any program you choose. There are issues around actually doing the program, even though we've paid for it. So I thought to bring up the topic for discussion from my point of view, but obviously there'll be room for Q&A and for comments and thoughts about it. And so that's what we'll be doing today, looking at what is commitment, etc. I'll talk about the agenda a little later. So for now, just take a few minutes to settle down and arrive in the here and now. I'll suggest a way, but everyone may have their own. And what I'm suggesting is just to gently close your eyes and tune into your breathing. Our breath is always there available to help us let go and come into the present moment, because our breath is in the present moment. Simply follow the flow of the in-breath and the out-breath. And let everything calm down. There's no pushing, simply focusing on the breath will lead to some level of calm, however deep it is. It's not important. You're just resetting, calming as best you can. And in this calmer state, simply think, why am I here? Why did I register? Why did I make the effort to show up? Because it takes an effort. At last count, there were 162 of you. And with this knowledge of why you're here, open your mind. No preconceived notions. We're going to have an open discussion about what is commitment, what does it involve, and do I personally have an issue with committing to a program? And no judgment. If I have a difficulty, that's fine. It's part of my path. So with this calmer, open mind, you can gently reopen your eyes and be ready for our interaction. All right. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is the definite connection, as this image shows, between commitment and consistency. If we have a strong commitment, we'll be more consistent in doing the activities or the practices that are in the program we've chosen. So those two go together. Without a commitment, we'll do it haphazardly, we won't be consistent, and we won't get results. We need to be consistent to get results. So the agenda. The first thing we'll look at, am I having difficulty committing to my recovery? Basically a diagnosis. I have some thoughts on that I'll bring up, but you may have your own to add. Use the chat anytime, and we'll gather the questions in the chat. So am I having difficulty committing to my recovery? If you're here, you might think you do. And then why am I having difficulty committing to my recovery? And then how can I create the wish, because it starts with the wish, to commit to a program? So very interesting things from my point of view that we'll be looking at in there. And then quickly, how to choose a program. There's just so many out there. And that's a good sign because it works. Mm-hmm. You know, it works. People are creating programs, they've recovered, etc., and they have different approaches. So how to navigate all that and choose a program that is best for you. And then how to practice the program that you do choose. Very succinct advice, but very simple and very useful for many of us who have, well, I don't want to give it all away right now. We'll start with that. And then obviously, please use the chat for questions. And at the end, we will have a small break, and I'll go through the chat to try and gather the questions while you have a break before we go to Q&A. So, little kitty twiddling his thumbs or her thumbs. Are we having difficulty? Am I having difficulty committing to my recovery? And these are signs that I've noticed in others and in myself that I'll list that could definitely indicate difficulty in committing. For example, I am aware of programs, but never choose one and commit to it. I keep hesitating. I am mixing ideas and strategies from different programs and different coaches. Now, this is a way that I found in my own journey with the first two programs I had before joining Jan's Reset to Thrive, that I'd go left and right and try different strategies and go down rabbit holes and all of that. And, you know, the analogy that I could use is if you hire a Sherpa to climb Mount Everest, but then a third of the way up you change Sherpas and another third of the way up you change Sherpas, is that going to work? You've chosen your guide to climb Mount Everest, so follow that guide and follow the ideas and strategies from the program and the coach you've chosen all the way, not mixing. Because mixing indicates that subtly to the mind that the program I've chosen is not complete. It won't do the job for me. I need to tweak it. And that creates lack of safety. So fully committing means fully committing and not mixing. So you might try out something for a while, then try something else, which is what I did with the first two. And I still think to this day, maybe if I'd committed to one of the first two really, I probably would have recovered with one of those because they all work. I research and go down rabbit holes. with various solutions. Again, I've done this a lot. And then finally, when I decided, when joining Jan's program and committing, I just unsubscribed from all these emails I would get from different sources about different strategies and different supplements and different all of this and that. I just let it all go. Because again, digging down rabbit holes indicates subtly to the mind, I need something else. I need something else. It's never quite complete. And we need to, as we'll see, have total belief and total commitment to heal. I've paid for a program, but I'm only skimming through it. Or, and this has happened, I know, in Reset to Thrive, I've watched all the videos very quickly and did not actually practice the instructions consistently for any length of time. So again, you've paid for a program, but you skim through it. And oh, that's nice, but you never actually practice it. Never put it into your daily life. And this is a very good way that I've found to avoid doing things. We have weapons of mass distraction at our disposal, and those are our devices. And they distract us, and we get lost in there because we don't face our fear of committing, our lack of belief, etc. And we distract ourselves instead of putting effort into the program we've chosen. So why? Why am I having difficulty committing to my recovery? Hope. We need hope. We need belief. And I noticed in my journey, I would say to people, I'm hoping beyond hope. Because I knew I had to continue to believe in recovery and hoping in recovery, but somewhere I wasn't. I wasn't believing I could. So I was hoping, I was continuing to try and hope, but the way I expressed it was hoping beyond hope. And this is, I know some people in my circle, for example, someone who's had fibromyalgia for 40 years, she said to me, I've had hope and I've tried so many things that now I have difficulty hoping once again, which is sad, so sad. Because actually, if we sit down, and it's normal to react like this, but if we think it through, is we're submitting, we say, okay, well, I'm just going to be sick the rest of my life. And isn't that tougher than trying again? And maybe be disappointed again, sure. Yeah, until we find the right solution for us. But that's a normal reaction, but it's not useful or helpful in our recovery. So I've been disappointed so often that I don't want to go through that ever again. So yeah, it's painful to be disappointed, but for me, it's a lot more painful to stay sick. And I'm going to run a small video, short video here. Just let me set it up. What it shows is an experiment that was done by two scientists. And probably ethically, they wouldn't do this today. But what they did is they had three groups of dogs. They put one group of dogs in a cage, then opened the door and the dogs escaped. That's the control group. Put another group of dogs in a cage and put electricity through the floor so they were getting shocked through their feet. But they had a button to push. And they pushed the button and it stopped the electricity. And in the third group, they did the same thing, but there was no button. So the dogs couldn't find a solution. So then they put these same dogs in a cage with one side with electricity and an open space to jump to the other side. The control group dogs jumped over to the other side. The ones who had learned to press a button, they jumped to the other side. But the ones who had no solution just stayed on their side with the electricity being shocked. So what that showed is they had a cognitive expectation to not to be able to solve their problem. And they didn't. And because of that cognitive expectation, they couldn't even see the solution. Simply jump, it was obvious and visible. All they had to do was jump to the other side, but they didn't. So I thought this would be helpful in looking at, we may be in that situation. I know I felt somewhat like that, like, how am I going to pull out of this? Is it possible? And we can go into the cognitive expectation of, well, I can't get out. I'm stuck with this for life. And people tell us that as well. So that's what this is all about. And we will put the link if you want to watch the video, or just search Learned Helplessness on YouTube and you'll find this video.
It's Seligman.
Yeah, Martin Seligman.
Seligman developed the theory.
Yeah, and Stephen F. Meyer. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to show. Sorry about the tech glitches here. So
actually, if I could just intervene quickly so that—
Go ahead, Jen.
Learned helplessness is often seen as a factor of depression, because you become quite depressed and you become helpless and hopeless, powerless. So it was very unethical now to do it with dogs, and obviously you're not going to do it with people, but that is the habit once you learn that you can't do something. Yeah, very good.
Thank you, Jen. So what I wrote here is, after quotation marks, going through the ringer and trying so hard to recover without succeeding, it's absolutely normal to start to doubt, to feel helpless, and have difficulty committing to, quote unquote, another attempt at recovery. So it's totally okay. It's totally okay to feel this, but there are ways to pull out of it. And this is something I experienced, what I would call a loss of determination or drive. Obviously, like many of us, I was very driven before becoming sick and very performance oriented and all of that. And I started my sickness by being very, very determined. I'm going to beat this, and digging into rabbit holes and looking for solutions, but in a stressful way. I was like so determined and attached to the result, and I'm going to pull out, I have to pull out. So later on, I could see, when I was just relaxing, watching my mind, that I was going like, where did my determination go? Well, I dissociated it with failure, because I tried so hard. And not only failure, but more crashes. So I've developed a new type of determination, which is day-to-day, but allows for rest, allows for joy, and totally lets go of the achiever. So that may be something I found, anyways, in my experience, and if you find it helpful, that's great. So what viewpoint will I choose? Will I relinquish my agency, my power over the situation, because they told me I would not recover? This is from Jan's book. I would never be the person I was, and I would have to learn to accept and manage the illness. It made me feel powerless and incapable of recovery. So it is a choice, or believe that I can recover. Whatever you think you can, or you think you can't, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. If you remember, that's Henry Ford. Jan quotes him in her book. So it's a choice, and maybe direct to say that, but we need to make that choice to believe in recovery. And to realize it's all normal. Online, I looked, about 3 to 15% of people who buy programs actually practice them. Imagine that, 3 to 15%. So we're not the exception. So around 90%, we could say, of CFS and long COVID sufferers don't actually fully commit to the program or programs they've chosen. So they paid money and they still don't commit, and therefore they don't recover. So of course they want to heal, they've paid for a program. And of course they could be in shutdown, freeze mode, helplessness mode, etc. So don't be hard on yourself, practice self-kindness. and I'll be doing a webinar probably in February on self-compassion, self-kindness, to repeat these things. It's so, so, so important. So, and remember, you are worthy, you are loved, even when you're lying in bed on a crash day. So now to the solution. How can I create the wish to commit to a program? Basically, it starts with belief in recovery, which leads to, if you have belief, you'll have the motivation and the energy to begin looking and to choose a program, and then to apply consistent effort on the chosen recovery program. And this will lead to recovery and thriving. That's the recipe. And that's why Jan starts her program and the book with belief. Because with belief, then we'll make the effort, we'll be motivated, we'll be consistent, and we will recover. And it'll be time to thrive once again. I like this little guy. So belief is half of all healing. Belief in the cure and belief in the future that awaits.
Sorry, who's that? Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick Ness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, just to go to the opposite side, if you don't believe in something, will you apply effort to do it? Right? I mean, the obvious, it's a rhetorical question. If we don't believe, we won't apply effort. So we need to work on belief in recovery. And is it necessary to have 100% belief to begin a path to recovery? Again, rhetorical, obviously not. Just enough to get going, to create some green shoots, to focus on the green shoots, and to grow from there. That's all we need. Enough to start, and then the belief builds, because the program you've chosen will work if you're consistent. And do you believe I am broken? The A in adapt, my body will adapt. I've been through quite a difficult spell in the last 3 weeks. A week of flu and a week of bronchitis. It's pretty tough. But I kept remembering, my body will fix this. My body will fix this. I'm not broken. I'm giving it the med it needs, and the rest will take care of itself. Sleep when you need to sleep, relax when you need to relax, etc. So if you have this thought, I'm broken, please work on it to remove it. And you can do it. You can do it. And so how can I strengthen my belief in recovery? Important, right? Because it's something we build on. In Buddhism, faith is not 100%. It's something we consistently work on. And a good analogy for that is, it's like a fire. We keep stoking the fire, throwing logs in, and keep our faith strong day to day. So we need to do the same with our belief in recovery. Recovery stories. We're starting to put some on the channel, the Reset to Thrive channel on YouTube. There are tons of recovery stories all over YouTube. Tons. Why? People are recovering. People are recovering with many different programs. And focusing on the micro improvements, the green shoots, as you progress towards recovery. Not focusing on what's not working. Oh, I spent the day in bed. No, not focusing on that. Use Jan's example. She crawled to the bathroom and went back to bed and said, I made it to the bathroom today. That's an improvement. That's how we continue to build belief in recovery. This is something for me that I've worked on. It was quite, my vision of my future was, how could I say, not clear, foggy, but I did know a general direction I wanted to go to. And as I've recovered and worked with Jan and Nicole and considered my Buddhist lifestyle, I have a much clearer vision of where I'm headed. For example, I'll be starting to teach Buddhism again on Wednesday mornings starting in November, which is something I wanted to do. So what is it you want to do once you're thriving again? This will help you. You got a goal to strive for, even if it's vague like it was for me. Just let it develop. No, this is a powerful one for me, and that's why I put to be expected in capital letters, because Jan said this in a webinar once, and I went, oh my gosh, I don't want setbacks. I've been fighting setbacks. And here she is saying, they're to be expected? I don't want them. Yeah, they're to be expected. And it helps to deal with them. To just know that they're part of the process. I even had a graph that I was using that was up and down all the time, but somehow I had to hear it. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, we say. And Jan appeared. Surround yourself with people who believe in your recovery. Okay, not with people who say you got to learn to live with it. And that's why we have peer group supports. I'll be starting one. I'll be facilitating a peer group starting in November. We all believe in recovery. We work together and go through the program. So, some quotes here. If all the causes and conditions for deep and genuine transformations are assembled, nothing can prevent the effect. So we're working on creating the causes and the conditions. Some of them are above there. We got to create the causes and conditions and just work on that, and our body will heal. Nothing can prevent that effect. And with effort, anything can be accomplished, even things that previously seemed beyond our imagination. Since effort depends upon motivation, the force of motivation is of utmost importance. And the force of motivation depends on belief. So it all starts there. And with belief, you can create the causes and conditions, be consistent, apply effort, and reset yourself to thrive mode. So a strong wish and consistent effort will be required, because I would say 99% of instances you are changing some fundamental things in the way you approach life. And that's something that requires effort, because we're so familiar with one way of living life, and there need to be often some fundamental changes. Jan shares that in her book, how she had a second episode of chronic fatigue because she hadn't changed the way she approached life. And when she did, now she's healthy and it's not coming back. So to do this, we have to want to do it and believe we can do it and apply effort to do it. And of course, going through this can lead to emotions, feelings, thoughts that can be difficult to deal with and must be processed. It is essential to find support, allowing you to maintain your belief in recovery, as well as your commitment to it. So support for the emotions, feelings, thoughts, however that is, individual coaching, peer support, buddy system, friends, therapy, only you know. But the important part is getting support to help guide you through the process that will transform yourself. So to transform yourself, you need to practice the instructions of the program you have chosen. It won't happen magically or be given to you. There's no magic bullet. So there's effort involved, but if you follow the instructions of whatever program you've chosen, I'm convinced you will succeed. So after heading for a third relapse a few years later, this is Jan, I realized I had to change my life and went on to have permanent health and fitness, as many others do. So this may be behind fear of committing, knowing, oh my gosh, I'm headed towards some changes here. So you can process that. So the green shoots, extremely, extremely important. And they're on my background on my screen. If you can see my video, I can't see it, so. But they're essential. They're essential. And we learn to focus on what's going well, what's growing, and we pull out of it. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. What comes to mind when you think effort? When you look inside, what comes to mind? A word, an image? Ta-da! The answer is joy. Joy. Effort is done with joy, like a child at play. A child will apply tremendous effort in something he or she enjoys. A game, learning something. They're relentless because they're enjoying it. And as we grew up in this society, we may have learned effort is grinding our teeth. It's hard, it's difficult, I gotta push. None of that to recover. None of that. Joy. Learn to put joy in your life. Learn to put joy in the practices you're doing. And believe me, you will recover. How to choose a program. I like this little image because, I mean, when I started looking around, there were a lot less. Now there's even a guide being published to help you choose a program. That's how many there are. Yeah. So a lot of questions can arise. And I'm going to go to the simplest, what I think is the simplest to help choose. What is most important in choosing a program, for me, is the feeling of connection with the program and its resources. I bought Jan's book in December 2023. I read the book, I took time to contemplate, I looked at the free videos, and I woke up one morning, I knew this is the one. And I connected with it. And from there, my belief and everything else grew. So feeling of connection. Of course, a nourishing connection that will help you improve. And the methods in the program are also important. They need to fit your needs, your style. And I think that was part of the issues with the first two that I chose. No need to mention them. The methods felt, I'm thinking of the French word, they felt plastered on my life. Meanwhile, with Jan, I felt this is part of my life. This is something I do with my life, not a little extra exercise here or there that I have to fit into a schedule. That's what I liked about Jan's methods. They fit in and you do stuff while stuff is happening, and that's it. So without the feeling of connection, even if the method works, I have some doubts. So that's exceedingly important for me. So you find a program that nourishes you, supports you, and back to effort that you enjoy, that you're going to enjoy doing. And that was definitely the case for me with Reset to Thrive. And that will guide you fully back to life while supporting your belief in recovery. So those are some ideas on how to choose a program. And obviously, there could be more. So connection, joy, safety, support, ... I think you get the drift. And this is an image I use often in my peer support group facilitation videos or presentations. I like this image. It shows support, community support. How to practice the program you choose. General advice for all programs. So be consistent with 2 or 3 things you enjoy doing. That's much better than a grocery list of things that are obligations for you. Okay? And that's how I did Jan's program, I must say. I didn't do it all. I did things I enjoyed, and of course I did other things. When certain situations came up, I would remember to do those other things. But I wasn't a perfect practitioner, far from it. But I did do the things I enjoyed, and I was consistent. So we need to pull out of the perfectionist achiever mode and just enjoy what we're doing and feel safe and all of that, and the body will do the rest. Remember that what worked for others may not work for you. So you go down rabbit holes, you find that, oh, no, we're all different. And we need to make choices. There are many offerings within Jan's program, a new one with Yoga Nidra, with Lucy. That may fit you. Great if it does. So that's why we have different things, because we're all different. And do remember that and guide yourself. Of course, you use others' experiences, but you need to know, will that work for me? And I trust my intuition when I'm asked myself that question. Remember that quick fixes are rare. They happen, but they're rare. Like, these book recoveries, somebody reads a book and they recover. That's like 1 in a million. Because resetting the nervous system usually is very incremental. It's been incremental for me, that's for sure. And many of you are busy mothers, busy parents. Even if you have just 2 or 5 minutes and you do something you enjoy, this will be exceedingly helpful. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be complicated. If it's a sauna that really helps you, you make effort to go to the sauna. If it's a walk, you make effort to go for a walk. We all have 5 or 10 minutes here or there, and we can give ourselves that. And then we're telling our body, I'm in control. We're not going to let this get out of hand. I'm enjoying this, and we're going to heal. And it's not what you do, but how you do it. Don't try so hard. Don't try so hard. Relax, do it, be consistent in not the determined way that I did it when I started trying to heal, but in a relaxed way, not attached to the results, not attached to a timeline, and it'll work. These programs work. They're based on science. So, an offering to yourself of self-compassion, self-kindness, choosing a program, integrating it at your rhythm, doing stuff at your pace, but doing it in a self-compassionate way. All right, I'm going to try another video. I'll just play it and see what happens.